I like this beer thing, but it's good. Also, it does horrifically remind me of Skaven every time I pick it up, though.
What, Doom Bar?
What?
Yeah, Doom Bar. It's all it reminds me of every time.
We're in the shop and we just hear from the background, Doom Bar. It's like, John is at the alcohol section.
The rats are here.
When we next go to Weatherspoons, eventually, you have to order a Doom Bar like that.
Doom Bar.
Can I have one of your finest Doom Bar?
I've been alone for a year. Anyway,
versus fiction.
Does he like Judas?
Tonight, Matthew, I'm going to be the Zodiac Killer.
You've got the shovel. Go on, Trooper.
Child abandonment is a fun plot device.
Back away, I've got a circle of sin and I'm not ready to use it.
He's a drug dealer. Oh no, wait, no, it's worse. He's a theatre major.
It's not awful so far. Hello! Welcome to this week's Fact vs. Fiction. I don't know what episode number we're on. We'll call it 40. My name is Matt. It's a fiction week. I am leading the charge to bring you facts, despite Tom's furious headshake. As always, I'm joined by John, my fiendish fact familiar.
good triple F.
I am amazed I landed that.
Triple F and a triple threat. Hello.
Oh! And of course, we have the fiction boys, Tom and Corby. Introduce yourself in either order.
I'm shaking my head because it's episode 36, Matt.
God, it's fine. The public will never know.
They can read the title!
Shh.
Or can they?
Shh. The only reason people listen to podcasts is because they can't read. How did they find the podcast?
They asked Alexa for Fact vs. Fiction, the coronavirus.
Oh, dear. I just want to say, Matt, I liked how your mind conjured up familiar before friend.
At least he didn't call him a falcon.
I don't know. John's got a pretty
Falcons are
impressive
pretty
wingspan.
I can definitely hunt small field mice.
Should have. Yeah, actually, falconer would have worked.
Oh, God.
John, Lord High Falconer.
I've only ever
Wherever you are.
I've only ever had an owl on my arm, not a falcon.
Presumably a bird sanctuary and not just while you were out in the woods.
Yeah, why not?
I do have a sort of... I guess it's a power fantasy. It's not a very good power fantasy, but...
Okay.
Wait, no. I'm going somewhere innocent with this.
Is this what we do instead of hypotheticals now? We just confess power fantasies.
Next, John's kinks.
I have a fantasy where I'll just be like walking about in the woods or just in the on the pavement or somewhere, and there'll be birds about in trees and whatnot. And I'll just stick out my arm like a falconer would, and one of them will just come down and land right on my arm.
Your
like
power fantasy...
Hopefully like a raven or a crow or something cool.
Your power fantasy is slightly edgy Snow White.
Was it just me that imagined Tom leaping forward and then just eating the bird that landed on his
My power fantasy is having a crow friend.
You're not helping your
Not
kids.
planning to eat my crow friend.
No, your crow friend will probably eat you given some time.
Crow?
I think I knew someone who
tastes nice.
had a black
No.
one of them around a lot.
Would it be stringy?
I wouldn't eat anything that comes in a murder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that
What
the
about a
secret to being
raven?
vegan? You just rename
come in
pigs
on
a
time.
murder of pigs.
A murder of pigs.
That's how the vegans do it, I'm
That's all
pretty
you hear.
sure.
Snorting as a murder of pigs descends. I was going to say down the ravine, so I don't know where you are at this current
I think we missed the chapter there.
Are we still on power fantasies? What the fuck is
hell
this?
Indiana Jones and the Lost Valley of the Swine? What Christ is this?
It's like the Lion King, only you've replaced the wildebeest with pigs.
Raiders of the Lost Pork.
Does this at all segue into whatever hypothetical question you had prepared, Tom?
Not at all, no.
Good. We're on track.
The question I had prepared, unless we want to talk more about tiny Bigfoots.
I mean, it's on the table.
Tiny Bigfoots on Little
Bigfoot,
Big
get
Planet.
down from there. Question I was going to ask is, what's the best abbreviation for social distancing?
Ooh.
May as well get that out while it's still relatively topical.
GTFO, I think.
Yeah. GTFA, get the fuck away.
Out, away, it works either or. Let's be honest, I haven't left the house, so I'm not telling anyone to go away. It's just get out of here.
GTFOO. There you go. GTFOO.
TFA.
Get to France or otherwise.
Why France?
Because I'm trying not to swear as much.
France is a suitable supplementary for the F word.
You stub your toe. Oh, France.
You are to Belgium. Sorry.
You just spiral through the different countries of the world.
I mean, eventually you are going to come across some that do just sound like racial slurs. I'm not going to lie.
No.
I mean, unless you, like, I don't know, cracked your leg and just shouted the word Irish.
The last thing.
You don't?
I think that'd be the worst thing I could possibly ever think of. Just like someone just tripping down the stairs and you just hear disappearing in the distance. Micronesia. And
just the Democratic Republic of North Korea or whatever is just really long country name.
Do you have to use the full
You gotta use the full name.
title name?
You've been shot. And you happen to be on the Congo.
The Democratic Republic of the Congo.
You were shot while standing on the precipice of a cliff in that example.
I just imagine whenever. Yeah, I'm just falling downstairs no matter what happens to me. That's it.
Is that just something you do?
No,
Not
it's something
for a
he's
while.
committed to.
John's
Not for a
preferred
while.
downward motion is collapsing down the stairs.
Now I think about it, I don't think I've fallen downstairs in probably a couple years or so. I'm probably due a stair falling. It's
I
not good.
was waiting for you to say a couple of weeks. Yeah,
What do you-
face the stairs each
I haven't been
Side
drinking enough. I need to up my game.
random side question to go with our question. What do you clarify as falling down the stairs? Is it like slipping off of one step, or do you have to go down the whole flight?
It can be both. It's when you actively end up falling onto the stairs or onto the floor below the stairs. If you're falling onto the bit above the stairs, you're doing it wrong.
That's falling up the stairs.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we do not tolerate that.
But yeah, like if you misjudge the last step and you fucking slip off it and your arse lands on the stairs, then that counts.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's at
Are
least
you
falling down.
drawing from what's happened to you today, Corby?
No, it's too common an occurrence where I think I'm stepping up fine on the stairs, but my foot is slightly too far forward and just my heel catches the stair. And it's like,
so tall.
nope.
Just the worst is when you're not really concentrating when you're going upstairs and you think there's another stair. So you take it and then you just go, whoa.
I will say, Corby, in your scenario, it's at least falling down the stair. I'll give you that at
A
least.
singular stair.
Yeah.
How did he
Is
die?
that better
He
or
fell
worse?
down the
Let us
stair.
know in the reviews.
Reviews
Please
called
give us reviews.
stair walking.
You can even tell me I'm a bad person. It's fine. I don't know. Just put it in the reviews.
Speaking of bad people, is this the segue you need to begin?
No. Try again.
Oh shit!
Speaking of
No. I am talking about a controversial figure, that's for sure. An
Captain Crunch.
interesting man. Viewed by some as a villain, some as a hero, some as a dog. I just heard that barking. Anyway, no.
John, I thought we
Right.
talked about your need to make dog sounds.
I'm talking today about. I'm trying to Google this name or anything to do with it, just because as a certain way I want to tell the story. But yeah, this is a controversial. He's a controversial figure. For me, I'm slightly sympathetic towards him. But we'll see what you guys think of it at the end, right? So today I'm talking about Marvin Heemeyer.
I have no idea who that is.
Okay.
Yeah, me neither.
You'll probably recognise something late in about 10-15 minutes. Anyway, he was born on October 28, 1951, around the South Dakota area, and he ended up moving and living in Grand Lake, Colorado, about 60 miles away from this town called Granby, where most of this is going to take place. and he moved there in about I think about 1994, I believe, around that time, according to a neighbour.
Wait, so
Anyway,
he's already 40.
no, you don't know much about him before he moved here. He was about 40 when he moved there. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So we know nothing of this man's childhood.
Well, no, he just like had a very regular kind of life. That's the thing. So that's why it's not really documented that much.
All controversial figures.
Nothing serial killer-esque in there.
Not
Okay.
documented.
Oh, no.
Or
I will
think
say
John would be sympathetic to him if he'd murdered a man.
No, like
depends on which
like
one.
a lot of serial killers in their backstory, they have like clear like something to cause trauma or shit
Yeah.
like that. So.
Oh yeah, no, a lot of the time. But then
But
you
we're
just
not
get the
talking
guy.
about serial killer,
Then you get the person who just done nothing, who's had nothing wrong in their life, and just decides to one day to eat someone. That's one of those things.
Time to feast.
It's like a switch hits when they're 39. No. And I will say, as far as I'm 100% aware, Marvin Hema never killed anyone or did anything like that.
Okay.
So
I don't know how we
that's
got on that
stating that.
tangent, but go on.
I don't know. But anyway, he so he as his friends he had no real relatives around the area, unmarried, no children, just kind of moved into the area. Anyway, most people seem to state he was second-hand kind of stuff like that, but most people seem to state he was a likable person, very affable. People just generally kind of got on with him, and but that's about it. There is like he moved to there and he set up a small welding shop in Granby, where he made his living repairing mufflers.
I was in car.
Yes. No, not gags.
I was imagining like little muffins.
No,
Why would you
anyway.
repair muffins?
Little mufflers, the little
Well, that's what I was
mufflers.
going to ask. What does welding have to do with bakery?
You know, really gets a nice caramelized top by superheating the muffin.
You do blowtorch them, so
You do. He just took it to the next step. He really wanted to be a baker, but welding was all he had.
Yeah. Anyway, and yeah, so he purchased the land of what his actual shop had been built on in about 1992, and over the years, it was quite a successful little shop. He earned a bit of money out of it. Over the years, a concrete factory basically approached him to buy some of the land to build a plant on. It's the land basically next to it, and they have trouble agreeing with the price. Some people seem to think he tried to he originally tried to sell it for $250,000, and then according to some people, he changed his mind, increased it to $375, then $1 million. We're not quite sure about this. We know that there was trouble over the price anyway.
that's just land inflation. I don't know what they're on about.
I am imagining someone just pumping the land full of air, and it's just steadily rising.
Anyway,
Cement factory people did.
But yeah, anyway, at the end of that, what happened was in 2001, the city approved construction of a concrete plant zoning the land right next to his house right next to his shop for the use. This kind of upset Hemai because he'd been using that little stretch of land there as an access road to actually get to his shop. So because obviously if it's a muffler shop, you're going to need to get your car there somehow.
Yeah.
And he petitioned to the city to have the property rezoned to prevent the construction of the plant there. He did this several occasions with help from friends and colleagues and petition owners, and he was rejected on multiple occasions. There's no.
Quick question, which is irrelevant entirely. How often does a car's muffler break?
I mean, I assume he did other odd jobs on the stuff too, but it was mainly a muffler shop. To be fair, none of us. I mean, Corby owns a car, but the rest of us don't do it.
That doesn't mean I know what a muffler is.
I've driven cars. I don't know what a muffler is.
I searched muffler and it came up with this horrendous scarf thing that's apparently popular.
They basically things that they use to they basically silence the really loud noise created by the engine's pistons.
Right. Okay.
I was imagining something like the dead cat that they put on studio mics.
It's a car silencer.
Basically, it reduces the sound of the
Put my car on silent mode.
Don't forget to attach the muffler to your pistol.
You sometimes get people who mess with them to make their things sound, their cars or bikes to sound as loud as possible. Anyway, that's quite important because otherwise, it's not important necessarily to the running car, but it's important so you don't get pulled over for noise pollution or whatever. Anyway, what he at this point this is like early 2000s, so 2001 is when he tried to zone it. Up until that, after that failed, he even said, okay, can we zone the land directly in front of my shop to be a new access road to my shop, and I will pay for it. I will buy the equipment needed to build it. Can we do this, please? They said no again. At this point, also in building the, what happened was in building the actual concrete factory and stuff, they'd actually severed one of his sewage pipe to his like house slash. I think it was just to the actual shop, the muffler shop, and he couldn't get it fixed really because they tried to make him pay to fix it. And he didn't have the money to do that.
Just people who built the concrete shop, right?
And then they kind of the building of that damaged this pipe, and he couldn't pay to do that, so he had to basically dump the sewage, and then they fined him for dumping the sewage. So at this time, things are building up and up and up.
At what point does he snap?
I imagine we get that.
So far,
early 2000s.
The concrete factory are definitely the villains.
The villains of the piece.
And they're not. To be fair, they're just a concrete factory. They're not doing anything. But I'd say more villains in this case. Well, villains such. The people in opposition to Marvin Haymeyer are the kind of local councils. They're not throwing him a bone at all.
Yeah.
In 2003, he decided he had enough because a couple of years earlier, in saying that you remember he's trying to build that alternative route or was offering to have his own pocket, he had bought a bulldozer.
I know.
Yeah, okay. No. Now he decided to modify this to make a tool that he could use to get his revenge. So,
revenge bulldozer.
Yes.
Put knives on the side.
On June the 4th, 2004, after almost a year, I think, constructing this, he drove an armored bulldozer through the wall of his former business where he built it in. And this was, when I say armored bulldozer, I'll get a picture up for you.
Okay, I know exactly what this is.
You will do. Don't
How the fuck
Google
are you
it.
going to link this to my topic?
I've got a way. This is a picture of it with someone on it after the event.
Oh boy!
My God, I love it.
That's a
he
fortress.
called it, he named it the MK tank. Now, what this was it was a modified Komatsu D355A bulldozer. Because, by the way, when he says he referred to it the MK tank, he did hours of tapes recording, talking about the situation, talking about his life. I've listened to a little bit of it. At the start, he sounds like a very reasonable man. He's had a very hard time. At the end of it, he does sound very final with his remarks, and just basically. Yeah. Anyway, but you can understand the line of thought between reasonable to snapping. Definitely,
reasonable to bulldozer.
Does MK tank stand for cool tank?
It's for the
cool has a K.
I assume it's modified Komatsu. I'm not sure. He was very talented. Well, anyway, what he'd done is he'd fitted it with makeshift armor plating covering the cabin, engine, and parts of the tracks. In places of it, this armor was over a foot thick.
Holy shit!
It consisted mainly of quickcrete concrete mix, which was sandwiched between sheets of half-inch tool steel. So that's about 12 mil. So at this point, this is, I mean, the metal alone is almost equivalent to a World War I tank.
I was gonna say.
I'd like to imagine he stole the concrete from next door. And like...
Rule the day. No,
I will use your own concrete against you!
It does say he bought the tool steel from an automotive dealer in Denver, which, to be fair, he's a muffler repairman. You're not going to question buying tool steel.
Why does this
welder
need metal? Suspicious.
But he basically, this crew basically created a form of composite armor. This made it entirely resistant to small arms fire and armor piercing and resistant to explosives too, as we'll later find out.
Oh wow!
Yes. He'd also fitted it with several video cameras linked to two monitors in the vehicle's dashboard inside. These cameras were protected on the outside by 3-inch thick shields of clear, bulletproof glass Lexan.
Where did you get that?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm a
With that-
man, don't worry about it.
With that many video cameras in, you know if he did this in modern day, that
He'd
thing
either-
would have been live streamed.
No, that's the thing. There's video of him doing this that people have filmed.
Yeah.
There's an entire 10-minute video of him. Anyway, or at least cut down. He'd even put compressed air nozzles inside that to clear the cameras of dust if they needed it. And he had onboard fans and an air conditioner inside, which he used to keep him cool while driving. Because obviously it's very hot. So you've got a block of fucking quickcrete.
Yeah,
and
it's pretty well insulated.
Now he'd also made. I will say he didn't. This damage didn't hurt anyone, but in case he'd made 3 gun ports fitted for a 50 caliber rifle, a 308 semi-automatic rifle, and a .22 long rifle.
Them's not small guns.
No, all
of it.
These were all fitted. These gun ports are all fitted with a 1/2-inch thick steel plate.
Love it when you have those
No.
gun ports just in case.
I'll have a 50 caliber machine
No.
gun port.
I will
just
say.
in case.
I will say,
No, just in case.
he built this entirely in his muffler shop of his. He had friends come over to talk to him while in the shop. None of them had noticed he had building this.
None of them commented on the
No,
giant armor.
no, not one of them.
Just put a
hadn't
cover
noticed
over it. It
this.
was like, what's this? Don't ask questions.
I mean, a tarp can only go so far. Marvin himself claimed that he thought at this point God was on his side and wanted him to do this because so many people were blind to what he was doing. He thought God himself was blinding them to what he was doing.
They hated it because he told the truth.
Anyway, and the thing is, there was one issue with said Killdozer. Which is what the authorities have titled it since then, or well, people have,
Did they?
I
Wait,
don't think the
Killdozer.
authorities.
I did think
it
it was Killdozer.
That's what.
Yeah.
That's what it's called. If you look at the Killdozer incident, don't yet, because I want to talk about it, Corby. I'm watching you.
I wasn't
Anyway,
going to, but I'm just
Watching
like,
your Googling fingers. I see you flexing those
Stop
fingers.
looking at the screen, you boy.
On the keyboard.
Look at me.
they're round my Coke.
He might have 3 arms. I don't trust you. Anyway, but no. What the issue was that Marvin very much believed this to be. We think from his tape. Well, I think from some of his tapes that I think he thought it was very much a one-way trip because when you put that, you have to put the concrete and metal and steel armor onto the bulldozer via a crane, and there was no way in or out of it once it was on.
So he was in it when he put the armor.
Oh
Yes,
shit!
yeah.
I think I'm starting to remember this now.
Yes, as I said, it happened in June 2004, June 4th. But he and they found he said Himai himself wrote, "It is interesting to observe that I was never caught. This is a part-time project over a 1.5-year time period." And he said that several men who had visited the shed late the previous year had not noticed the modified bulldozer, especially with a 2,000-pound lift fully exposed. Somehow their vision was clouded. So I can start to believe why he thought God was on his side.
So there was no tarp. There was no tarp. It was just
there.
you.
Anyway,
Big neon light pointing towards it. Look,
Anyway.
check this out.
Killdozer
Notice anything
prototype.
new about the shop?
Yeah.
Anyone? No, same as always.
anyway, so he drove.
Just
he
someone
drove-
asks him when it's going on sale.
So anyway, on to the actual instance itself. So the first thing anyone knew about this was this thing driving out of his shop through the wall.
Why through the wall?
I suppose you can't open the door once you're in it.
Also, given the size of the man on top, that's a big fucking vehicle.
Yes, that is a big thing.
Yeah.
He
Probably not a door big enough.
But then again, he had to get the dozer inside in the first. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
You've got to make a dramatic entrance, though.
Yes,
Exactly. Even if it sacrifices your own
he
wall.
immediately drove through the concrete plant as well.
His mortal
because-
enemy must be crushed first.
Yes, of course.
Tell
He
me
drove-
he goes for the council.
Yeah. Yeah. He drove through several businesses. He drove through the concrete plant. He completely destroyed the town hall. He drove through the office of the local newspaper that editorialized against him. The home of the former mayor, The mayor didn't live there anymore. The mayor's widow resided there. He also drove through another hardware store that Himai himself had named in a lawsuit at one point.
Okay.
As well. He also trashed several police cars and some of the police station.
I don't know if this was the case, but I do like to imagine that all these places were just lined up on one street.
No,
Make a straight go for it.
This incident continued for 2 hours. By the way, the police weren't just sitting back. The entire time they were following him, firing at over 200 rounds of small arm fire were fired at this Killdozer. Nothing happened. They tried. It was awful. And they tried. They even dropped a flashbang down the exhaust. Nothing happened. There's calls from police just saying, just get me as much arm-piercing ammunition as you possibly can. Just like okay, and none of this could stop it. So it's like there are several buildings that are just thrashed because of this. That's one of the residences. Let's see if I can find.
I mean, that's what I expected.
Yeah, there was quite yeah. I don't know how he did that, but he did. Anyway.
Oh, he must have used the bulldozer front to lift
The
it
lifty
up.
thingy.
One would think,
Scoop.
I believe this is the front of the concrete factory. He basically gutted it. He just went through it.
It's gone.
It is gone.
That whole wall.
Is it me?
Of
Is
what
it me, or
appears
is
to be
the
a
roof
three-story
folded up
building?
on the other side?
Yeah. Oh god. Yeah. It's as I said. He drove through the tunnel. There's several pictures of the police station. Actually, and the cars crumpled. He continued it lasted 2 hours 10 minutes, damaging 13 buildings, knocked out natural gas service to the town hall and the concrete plant, damaged structures, destroyed part of a utility service centre. I will say, no one was hurt during all this. All the damage was to
a miracle.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
to be
like
fair,
it
they could
because
probably see him coming.
True. They probably heard of his wall coming down and then saw him on the horizon and ran.
Yeah. But yeah, he did do quite a few buildings in. I can't find the picture of the town hall at the moment, but that might be it. But yes, he several of these are just crushed.
You did say he fully demolished the town hall. So.
I do
he
love
he
that.
did break
Is
it.
that a TV in the thing that's completely intact?
I think it is.
It does look like it.
Yes, it is. That's a monitor just sitting there. But yeah, I found the police station. You can see the police were not best pleased.
Oh, wow.
This is why, to many people, he's somewhat of a hero because he's fighting against local government, all that. Which, to be fair, I've got no problem with the national government in America. I've got fine with them. But if anyone's ever had to deal with any kind of planning or zoning laws, you know that local government can be the epitome of Satan at times. Anyway,
they do glow from the waist up.
War.
Where to apply for planning permission?
Yeah, anyway.
You'll have to go to the 9th circle.
But yeah, but it's the kind of the first thing a lot of people knew about this was after a while the police actually used the reverse 911 emergency system, which I didn't know was a thing, to basically notify many residents. Yeah. Whatever. Anyway, to notify many residents and property owners of what was going on, to say, just get out of the way. There's a madman in a bulldozer. Now, as said, many defenders of Himaya said that, well, he didn't hurt anyone. And the only buildings he destroyed were buildings of people who he perceived to have a grudge against him, or that he had kind of screwed him over in some ways. And the sheriff himself said, "Well, yeah, that's more good luck than anything not being hurt. Now anyone being hurt,
yeah,
I can see that point too." But obviously he didn't. He did fire. He did have rifles. He did fire bullets. But what he
okay, now that's too
fired
far.
15. But what he did was he fired 15 bullets from his rifle at power transformers and propane tanks. Luckily, none of them seemed to go up. But as the sheriff said, if any of these had ruptured and exploded, it could have. One half mile could have been hurt. Anyway,
I know that a power transformer is probably something fairly innocuous, but I was imagining Optimus Prime when you said that.
Yeah. Now,
being taken out
he did also shoot. He did also shoot at a man called Cody Doshev, who was basically I think he was a particular a worker, but he basically used a real tractor scrape, one of these big machines, to try and, because he thought, well, the guns aren't working, we've got to try and use something equally big to stop him. But it didn't work. He shoved it, he pushed it out of the way, and just carried on his way. What I can't find the image of it. Pushing it
Killdozer
out.
does sound like a robot you'd entered into Robot Wars.
It does.
It does a little bit. Oh god, it probably is actually. At least before this. This is 2004. But I'll put the gif of the I'll put the gif of the bloody. It's not. It doesn't work.
GIF.
How do I do this?
The best thing is you can tell what's going to happen even though it's not moving.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just. Yeah,
Killdozer ready. Whatever the
coffee.
fuck
Will
you
that
want,
work?
ready.
It does sound. Killdozer sounds like the one that tried to be intimidating in Robot Wars, but didn't get past round 1 because it lost a hypno disc or something.
Hypnodisc was great. That is exactly what I expected to happen.
Ramming speed.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the guy trying to stop him. Obviously didn't work. You can see the amount of rubble on it.
Jesus.
Yeah. They did try and shoot out the cameras too, but obviously the bulletproof glass did stop. But yes. Anyway, Martin he might continue with it. What happened was eventually he was trying to bulldoze a hardware store called Gamble's Hardware Store.
Is this the guy who he had done a lawsuit against?
I believe so. Yeah. Now, by the way, I will say during all this, the governor at the time, whose name escapes me, he was considering authorizing the National Guard to attack with an Apache helicopter and to fire a Hellfire missile at it. The only reason they didn't was because they thought, okay, the Hellfire missile probably will do more damage to the town than he currently is. But they were actively considering this.
Sir, we can't stop him. Nuke it!
Now,
But the rest of
was
the town, nuke it!
as he turned down like a small alleyway to get to this hardware store, because obviously, I mean, he doesn't care about roads at this point.
All terrain.
Hang on a minute.
mercy.
He's going the wrong way down a one-way street.
Don't bring me into this.
Is that how they caught him out? They got him on a traffic infraction.
And they basically the tractor scraper, which if you Google online, you can see it pushing around like it's nothing. But it's quite funny. They're for a split second, like a construction, they're doing a bit like a cat versus mouse thing, with like kind of edging towards them back. And anyway, but yeah, it didn't ultimately do anything. They drove it like to block the alley, so he couldn't go back the way he came.
Mm.
At this point, it's starting to billow smoke, the Killdozer, because the radiator's been damaged in some way. We're not sure how. Probably just straight use or something. Yeah.
Just from ramming speed.
Well, you say that, but it's got a bloody. it's probably more
pushed
ramming,
through
considering
walls.
it's probably under like a foot of armor.
Yeah.
But
Elephant pressure put on the radiator.
yes. Anyway, and what happened was it's kind of a sad part. Like the track got wedged in the basement of the hardware store, and it could not move anymore. And at this point, the Killdozer engine went completely dead.
No, the hero.
At this point, the police advanced upon the Killdozer very warily, obviously, because it had gun bullets.
Gun bullets. And they've obviously seen him shooting out of it.
About a minute after the engine died, they heard one single gunshot, and they then tried to. I think they then assumed what might have happened. They tried to open up the Killdozer. They tried 3 explosives, and they didn't work. So instead, they spent 7 hours with an acetylene torch, I believe, cutting it open to get to it. And they found that Himai himself, inside when he couldn't do anything else, had actually shot himself with a handgun, unfortunately. And what is also a problem for the authorities is after this has happened. By the way, this entire rampage, and after 2 hours and 30 minutes, I believe, cost $7 million in damages.
How expensive was the ball?
It's not going to be $7 million. That's the thing.
That's quite a. he's made a profit.
I'd argue not.
Not the right word. He's covered his costs.
This is a social war. It's not. Anyway, but anyway, so yeah. Apart from Hemaya, no one died. No one was hurt.
So how did they know God was telling him to do it? Did he leave behind the journal?
Because after the rampage, authorities searched Hemaya's home and found multiple notes and over 2 hours of audio tapes.
Oh, well,
that had his entire motivations. The audio tapes, you can still find on YouTube.
Did you say 2 or 200?
Over two. It's like the one I found online is like 2 hours 42, but some of it's been cut. And you listen to parts of it just to get the outline of it. Yeah. But the thing is, it may seem like a madman on the loose, but he did give every explanation as to why he was doing this, what his plan was doing it, and he's got some sort of famous quote like where from it, which people still quote to this day in like anti-government kind of more circles, which is like sometimes a reasonable man has to do unreasonable things, and anyway, yeah, and as said, that found that obviously several people had gone to his shop and didn't notice it, and
no one noticed it
at this
without
point.
his mark.
No, I don't know. I do not know. Anyway, what happened with the Killdozer itself? The state officials basically decided to take it apart and sell it for scrap. They cut it up into dozens of pieces and sent it to scrap yards across the state to basically stop any kind of like trophy hunting from like admirers of any souvenir collecting from admirers of Hemaya, because I knew that this kind of thing would be big.
Stop it being reborn.
And yeah,
We cannot let them reforge the Killdozer.
this led to the legendary American quest to reforge the Killdozer when the pieces are complete. No,
It's not Captain
The
Planet.
5 pieces of Killdozer.
Fight our powers combined.
Anarchy. There is also apparently a 2020 documentary called Tread, about this. I have not watched it, so I wouldn't know about the quality of it. But yeah, anyway, they did find his handwritten list of targets. According to the police, include the buildings he destroyed, the local Catholic church, which to be fair he didn't get to, and and the names of various
Why
people.
would the international church have
I don't know.
Devout
That doesn't
Protestant.
make sense. It's about.
Yes.
I'm a Methodist myself.
And it said also names of various people had decided against him in past disputes.
Yeah.
The investigators found notes that after the incident that indicate the primary motivation of the bulldozer rampage was his plan to stop the concrete plant from being built near his shop. These notes indicate that he held grudges over the zoning approval. Quote, I was always willing to be reasonable until I had to be unreasonable, he wrote. Sometimes reasonable men must do unreasonable things. Now these quotes have been kind of taken over by some more of the problem is the more like anarchist or like far right extremist movements, especially like the Boogaloo movements, if you don't know what the hell that is.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, but basically you might hear people just say, I became unreasonable, quoting this.
That's
Anyway.
not a good defense.
No.
You're
But,
all but admitting guilt.
But yeah.
Your Honour, I was unreasonable. So I think you'll find
I
that
still
gets
am.
me off.
Yes, but anyway, but that's mostly the story of the Killdozer and Martin Hemaya, who I don't know how to feel about it, because I don't know, because I do feel that he might have taken things a bit far, but at the same point, I do feel he was partly driven to these
things a bit far, John.
I think that's fair to say.
It's a bit extreme.
I'm struggling, to say whether you could classify him, for example, as criminally insane for doing that, because he laid out exact motivations for doing so.
And he'd been making these he'd been making the thing for over a year and a half. He'd making these takes for a kind of a similar amount of time, or at least try and get them down.
As John said, though, there's no one else in his family or anything either. It's just him.
Yep.
So
no relatives nearby. He didn't have a wife. He didn't have kids. Just him.
He just had Killdozer.
Just him and Killdozer.
just him and kill.
Christ.
Me and my Killdozer.
No, it's the kind of thing I do feel some sympathy towards the guy because he did seem like he's been dealt a bad hand quite a few times.
Yeah, no, I definitely.
It makes me think a lot of I can't remember what the film is called, but it's that classic example of
Joker.
just one day. No, it's
Oh,
like
God.
the older version.
Taxi driver.
Marvin Heemeyer, we live in a
it's the
society.
classic example of when somebody completely normal just snaps.
Yeah.
American Psycho?
No, I'll see if I can Google it.
No, he's a psycho
Dog
from the
Day.
start.
No,
Postman Pat the movie.
Oh yes.
like the Killing Joke, where it's like almost like what would change per person over a day or
Oh,
something.
no,
No, I
don't
mean,
give me that. I googled famous snap films and it said, "Did you mean famous snuff films?" No. I have no idea even to begin how to do it. But basically, it's like an '80s movie, and it's just a classic example of when you don't think you're the bad guy and everyone's out to get you, kind of thing. There is a way for
There's
that.
that. I said most people thought he was quite
Just sort of
likable in
gradually
the
worn
community
down.
and,
Yeah.
fairly easy going. There's one or two people I have problems with, as evidenced. But no, I think he started off reasonable, and I think eventually towards the end he started going a bit nuts just because of all of this. Obviously, the whole God thing.
Well, yeah.
There is that. And as far as I'm aware, I don't think the Catholic Church did anything to him. But he basically was saying, look, it's obviously been made clear that I'm not wanted in this town, that I'm not wanted, that kind of thing. And yeah, I can kind of see that to some extent.
It's like everyone seems to be against him, so yeah.
Yeah. It is quite funny listening to the police audio log. It's like, yeah, I think we're definitely going to need a SWAT team. And the SWAT team turned up like, oh shit.
SWAT team was on holiday, they had to come back.
No, they turned up, all they could do was follow them along down.
It's called Falling Down.
Oh.
Ooh.
I'll have to look into that.
The
Haven't heard of
description,
that.
1993, is an American crime thriller by fucking Joel Schumacher. Wow. And is
What is it, the name that got you?
basically a policy guy who's unemployed divorced engineer who's increasing frustration levels into act out finally and ends up committing several crimes, but the entire time he thinks he's in the right because everybody's doing wrong by him.
That sounds exactly like this story.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Did he also have a Killdozer?
No, but he had a lot of guns that he stole from some gangsters because the gangsters tried to mug him.
Fair.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he just didn't have anywhere to slot them.
I'll put this picture from an article. That's him.
Is that him?
Yes.
Now I feel even more sympathetic because he just is like kind of kind old granddad. Why would you pick that
Yeah, he
kind
just
of...
seems like a kindly old man.
He was 52 when he did this. But yeah. And
Wow.
just to show you the size of this thing, this is a...
I disapprove of the fact that they did write Killdozer in red on the side of his...
Yeah,
This is the SWAT team trying to do something. I don't know what.
Exactly.
But something. It really captures the scale of the thing.
About what,
someone appears to be
nearly
doing
15
interpretive
feet at its
dance.
tallest
I was gonna
point?
say, who's doing the...
Yeah.
Who's just swaggering up to the thing?
Hey, Killdozer,
Don't
come
worry,
on,
guys,
have a
I'll
go,
stop
you
it.
think you're hard enough.
I didn't write. That's weird. The Killdozer is on Villains Wiki. That's good.
It technically could be classed as a villain.
Yeah, sure.
Certainly
But,
sounds like a villain.
It does sound like a Saturday morning cartoon villain.
Killdozer!
They've gathered all the pieces of Killdozer. They're gonna bring it back.
My workshop has no pathetic vehicles, but it does have the 5 pieces of Killdozer.
Oh my Christ! I think there is actually.
Him being mounted in the Killdozer, it spins around and the roof is dropped on.
Oh my God! I just found there is actually a 1974 made-for-TV science fiction horror film called Killdozer.
I wonder if that's where he got the name from.
Any
But there's-
inspiration?
But he has inspired a lot of memes. A lot of memes.
Yeah. I think oh my God.
Yeah. But it's one of those. It is what it is. It was he's an interesting figure, and I'm not entirely sure what to make of him morally, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Anyway,
speaking of morals,
here we go. From an armored vehicle to the only vehicle that could beat it in Holy Religion, the Pope-mobile. Let's go.
John's put the nail on the head. We're talking about popes today, guys. What better way to go straight into it than from Killdozer and a man doing what God wants?
Also another man who was apparently known as the voice of God.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
let's just get straight into it. So, going back to my roots. To any long-term listeners, you'll remember that episode 1 was me talking about the Pope and his war on cats. We're not going down that bizarre route per se. It's still a bizarre Pope topic. But we're staying away from cats this week. I'm going to talk about the Pope for Moses. Now, this all takes place in the 9th century.
Wait, the Moses?
No, for Moses, spelled F-O-R-M.
For Moses.
He's
just
pro
Moses.
He's pro Moses.
He read Exodus and he was like, I reckon Moses is the good guy here.
He saw
I'm
Moses part the Red Sea with his Beyblade and was like, I'm into this.
I'm against Ramesses.
Yeah, this guy gets it.
I will preface this like John did. This will be better if you don't Google anything. Now, this all takes place in the 9th century, or begins in the end of the 9th century, which was quite lethal for the church, shall we say.
Wait, what year was this? I was too busy distracted by the Killdozer memes in the Discord.
All right.
This has already taken place.
Sorry, what year is it, Matt?
5
Hey
days
guys, I'll
from
never
now.
guess what the Pope's planning to do next Monday.
Oh my god. So it takes place in like the 870s onwards, roundabout. So a bit of background first. So since Rome fell in roughly 470-ish, I can't remember which exact date, like 476, something like that. Rome as a city had declined in both prestige and power, as had the church. Constantinople was the big capital by that point. Eastern Orthodoxy was ascendant. Catholic Western religion was kind of just wallowing in a pit of just despair.
That makes me think of Eastern Orthodoxy just T-pose, but
Eastern
Constantinople.
Orthodoxy was busy T-posing over the Catholic Church. That's an excellent way to look at it.
Was the HRE established at this point, or
It was. The Pope's
so? Yeah, it was wallowing about in Germany. Catholicism.
Right, and in its own right.
and going rapidly, like not too rapidly, but like faster than you'd expect. And eventually Charlemagne was crowned Holy Roman Empire.
That French bastard.
That French bastard. But they wouldn't really regain the leading edge over Constantinople until roughly the 11th century, when all the crusading stuff happened. We're not going to talk about that. That's a whole can of noodles. Can of noodles or what?
Can of udon.
With worms?
Can of noodles.
You could call a worm a noodle.
Tortellini? I don't know. Something.
But specifically, Pope Formosus came into power in a period that nobody's dubbed this, but I looked at it and went, this is literally the equivalent of the crisis of the 3rd century, but for the Catholic Church.
Isn't like 867 dubbed like the Viking era?
So that's when the Viking Age began, but we're not going to talk about the Vikings.
I mean, that's just like time period wise.
Yeah. So
in the
I
Viking
think they officially say 793 because of the second Lindisfarne, I think.
Yeah, something like that. So if everybody casts their mind back to my episode on Aurelian, that took place in the crisis of the 3rd century, where over a 50-year period, you had something like 24 emperors, or something like that, which was an emperor every 2 years. Well, between 872 and 965, the popes got involved in power struggles between the declining Carolingian Empire, which was the heirs of Charlemagne and the HRE, and local Italian dynasties.
He made me think of Popes wrestling.
Just the Pope wrestling Charlemagne for his crown.
You're going down, Frenchie! I don't know. Super Pope.
Just the Germans and the Italians on the side. I was like, "Wah!"
Suplex over the right.
This proved. I've written here that it proved bad for their health for those leading the Western Church, which is kind of an understatement, because in this time period there was no less than 24 popes, which ended up being one pope per year, and some of them only lasted days in the office.
New Pope, time for a harvest.
time of year. Let's go a poping.
The clock. I like that's his wrestling tagline. I'm sorry.
It's 12 o'clock. I'm going to take you down to the Holy See.
He's got a tattoo on his bicep, and it just says, "I heart Moses."
I'm going to start you like Moses parted the Red Sea.
It's too sexual. Move on.
Yeah. So,
No, that's not.
to quickly run over causes of death, many of these deaths were mysterious. But
German suplex.
As they were back in the day.
include, but are not limited to, being arrested was one of them.
That's
which
not death.
makes me feel like someone got arrested and just died.
Is that just the old term for police brutality?
Yes.
I got arrested.
Poison,
Coma.
which is a papal classic down the line. Where else have gone? Strangulation,
Why did you kill me with a
stabbing,
cliche?
strangulation, stabbing, shanking, imprisonment, which I don't know how that differs from arrest.
You get a bit further on.
It's not done by the police. Is the
Can I just
difference?
ask what's the official
If
difference
Crusader
between
Kings is
shanking and
anything to
stabbing?
go by, being arrested by the police and being arrested by someone with power are completely different things.
Indeed. And to answer your question, Job, it is the way you
Job.
angle the blade.
We're not going that far back in history.
Yo.
I imagine a shanking is something very quick. So that you
I
know,
was
I like
shanking
stabbing
with multiple
blow.
stabs.
and you're done, and
Oh,
then
I fucking shanked him. Whoa.
it's like a
Maybe
sort
improvised knife.
of for the
Yeah.
moment. Yeah,
We'll go with that.
the
Regardless,
stabbing can be like a
murderous-
big sword.
Murderous shenanigans were
So Matt, you're telling me they didn't push them off balconies, that they cut the rails off so they just fall through?
couldn't find any evidence of that, but I'm sure it happened at some point.
What about the snake? Did they do that one?
For all I know, there was the explosive manure.
Oh, right, yeah. Forgot about that.
No, murderous shenanigans were afoot. It was essentially, as I say, a microcosm of the crisis of the 3rd century, with just popes overthrowing their enemies, installing their own power base, or popes being overthrown and new popes being installed, just back and forth, back and forth. And it was into this arena that Pope Formosus was born / stepped into. He was actually born in 1860.
I was born in the ring.
I was molded by it.
You merely adopted the ring. The spandex.
Little do we know, the original Hail Mary was a flying elbow. Sorry.
So, Pope Formosus was actually born in 1816, so about 50 years before it all started. We don't know what his real name is. It's been lost to the annals of
1816.
history. So, 816.
Okay, cool.
He wasn't. Yeah, he was born 1,000 years after it happened.
I don't want to live here. Send me to Moses. No, not far enough.
We don't know when he was, what his real name was. It's been lost to the annals of history, but we think he was a native to Rome. But besides that, we don't really know that much about him until he was made Bishop of Porto in 864, at about the age of 48. Porto being in northwest Italy, above the port of Ostia, which is like the main port by Italy. For anyone of geographical interest. Don't know if that sentence was right. Moving on.
Porto was in Portugal.
No.
That's
Like,
that's
it
what
doesn't
Google
exist.
is telling me.
I know, I couldn't find it, but on a map I found a map that showed where it was, or at least where Ostia was. But I don't think Porto actually exists anymore. Or if it does,
It's
the
moved.
Italians- the
They
Italians want
took
to
it.
rename.
I will have a quick Google. Continue with your tale.
So bishops at the time, just as a quick explanation, responsible for appointing priests and being consulted on local affairs. He managed his diocese, which was a district of the church. Have you found something amazing, John? Judging by your reaction.
No, it's because I saved a picture of a Killdozer earlier, and I'd saved my screensaver to swap through my saved pictures, so I turned it off and noticed a picture of the Killdozer in my face. It just made me giggle. I'm sorry.
So he was responsible for governing his diocese, which was a section or a district of church control. He basically ran everything. Now, despite being pope in his old age, Formosus early career. You wouldn't have assumed he would go on to be Pope, judging by what happens. And we're going to dive straight into it. In 866, he was made legate to Bulgaria, which basically just meant he went on a diplomatic mission to help them. The Bulgarians absolutely loved him, to the point which they asked him to become their archbishop. This was a problem because Bulgaria was in the Eastern Orthodoxy See, and the See being that holy centre, so it was under Constantinople, and bishops weren't allowed to cross borders, shall we say. It was a big, big no-no. Canonically, and that's the holy canon, not canonically in a novel or in law. Due to the holy canon, they could not swap holy sees. It was against God's will or something. So Moses had to decline, unfortunately.
For those wondering, he couldn't go from the Mediterranean to the Black Sea, I think is what you're telling me.
Basically, along those lines. He couldn't change church. He couldn't swap sides.
Oh, screw you! I'm a bat for the Byzantines now.
This is important.
Mercenary Pope.
You guys need to remember that the Bulgarians asked him to be their archbishop because it's going to come back later. So,
is that when the Crusades start?
No, the Crusades aren't going to start in this period yet.
Right.
You don't need to worry about those. Between 869 and 872, I realised I said that ominously like I was lying. We don't have to talk about the Crusades. They're not involved. I don't know why I said it like that.
That's why it's Porto. It's the Diocese of Porto Santa Rufino, which is
there you go.
Part of the Diocese of Rome. It's all these nonsense things.
Thank you, John. You are a very helpful researcher.
And not Porto, Portugal.
Not Porto, Portugal. So in 869 and 872, between those time periods, he undertook a couple more diplomatic missions. He went to France, which was obviously called Francia, or Francia back then.
Did they also ask him to be their archbishop?
No, they didn't. He just went there and avoided basically being politically stifled by what was going on around the time.
France in two halves at this point?
Yes, it had been split into two. So you had West and East Francia, which becomes a problem.
My last name's from like Frankish Germanic origin. It's interesting.
I think mine is as well.
Yes, Matt. No shit.
Fucking hell, I've lost my place. So he avoided being politically stifled, but he must have done enough to earn favour with people there, as in 872, he was, or rather, he got enough to be made. Oh, come on, brain, phrase it properly.
Cardinal?
He basically earned enough favour with the College of Cardinals and people there that he was very nearly made Pope in 872, right at the point where the catastrophe years begin.
He had enough Pope points.
He had almost enough Pope points, but his rival, Pope John VIII,
I like him.
a man who didn't like Formosus very much, was elected instead. Now, when I say he didn't like Formosus very much, everything that is about to happen to Formosus is because of John. That's John VIII, the Pope, not John in the podcast.
And you thought it was bad having two Toms that were present. Try having a John that's not present.
It was just a prank, bro.
Can I quickly ask? You said we didn't know what his real name is, so how did he come to be known historically as Formosus? Or will you get to that?
So when a pope is elected, they pick a new name, or they give him a new name. So he picked the name Formosus.
Hence why we got Pope Innocent and the like. Because I mean, like, if you name your kid Innocent, you're a psychopath, and he will be too, or she. I don't know. You could. They would go that. I don't know. I don't care.
I do respect the hustle for the ones that like pick a new name, John. Okay, that'll do.
Oh yeah, it's a good Christian name.
Well, he was originally Dave, so it's just like
Oh, Dave.
I mean, John was one of the disciples, so I understand why. But
He was. I don't think there's a Pope Matthew. I'm pretty sure Matthew is a disciple.
I think there's been a Pope Paul once or twice, definitely.
There has been a Pope Paul there.
Which one's the current one?
Benedictus.
Benedict?
Sure.
Why not?
It might be a Francis, actually.
I think it might be.
Oh yeah, I think Benedict was the old one.
Regardless, this is where shit starts to hit the fan. So,
oh yes, what did you call them? The crisis years.
The crisis years are beginning. So in 875, Charles the Bald was crowned King of Francia. He briefly reunited Francia.
That's Charles the Bald and not Charles de Gaulle, just for the
Charles
record.
de Gaulle,
There was a moment.
So when Charlemagne died, Francia got divided between West and East, which was basically the custom of the time was that you split all your lands between your children. Charles Bald comes along and is like, I want both, murders presumably his relative, takes both of them. Didn't do that much research into it, but that's the general gist of things.
I mean, that's just good economic sense.
Matt, you say divided amongst the children. Divided amongst the boys back in the
Divided
day.
amongst the boys, yes.
It's not even a bit divided against the survivors.
Patriarchy!
The lads.
Can we get that as a sound clip?
I can try.
Thank you.
So he reunited Francia, or at least was crowned king of Francia, and also emperor of Italy. So made Holy Roman Emperor. Because at that point it was just Italy and Francia which had bits of Germany in it. Formosus was tasked with conveying the coronation information to Charles. Off he pops, goes to France like, yo Charles, we want you to be king of the Holy Roman Empire. Secret, he didn't want him to be king of Holy Roman Empire. Formosus didn't like Charles the Bald very much, and he actually favoured his relative, a guy called Arnulf of Carinthia. And
He was for Arnulf.
I trust that man.
Arnulf is going to be important later.
I
still
feel like
trust
I recognize all of these names from Crusader Kings, and I have
You
no
will,
idea
you
what they
will.
did.
Well, I'll tell you.
I
what
feel
Because
I
they didn't do what they were
recognise them from the
supposed to.
TV show Vikings.
Yeah.
So, Charles was crowned king. And sorry.
Head honcho.
So, just a quick correction. So, Charles the Bald was king of West Francia, Emperor of Italy. Arnulf was actually king of East Francia, but I think he was under Charles.
An
Fearing
under king.
coronation went ahead, but fearing reprisals from John, that's John VIII Pope, Formosus ended up fleeing Rome with a bunch of Arnulf's supporters who had been in favour with Arnulf being crowned. And he went to the court of a man called Guy III of Spoleto in Lombardy, which is the northwestern part of Italy. You should also remember Guy.
I love the name Guy.
Guy.
Guy the Third.
It's spelled Guy, but it's pronounced Guy apparently.
Yes.
So Arnold,
I can only think of that dinosaur meme where
God,
it's like,
I think I've met someone called that actually.
so
My
So Guy-
sister had a toy pig that was called Guy because when she was very little, she could only say the Guy part of piggy. So Guy the pig.
so Arnulf, Guy, and Formosus is stripped to Bulgaria. 3 key points.
Mm-hmm.
Need to remember. So he went off to Guy III's court. I can only assume things didn't go down too well there because in 876, basically him and his followers got charged with doing a whole bunch of stuff by John VIII. This included deserting his diocese, so deserting the place that he was charged to govern without papal permission. So I'm assuming he wasn't just allowed to leave unless he was like, yes, you may go on holiday, kind of thing. He was also accused of performing a divine service in spite of interdict, which I think means that John had said that he wasn't allowed to do that anymore because he'd abandoned his diocese, but he hadn't told him, and therefore he had done it without realizing it, kind of thing.
I'm gonna do it anyway.
Weird. All of this is suspect as whether it happened or not.
I mean, to be fair, the other guy has more power. He can accuse him of whatever the fuck he wants.
He was accused.
He also stole fizzy lifting drinks.
While doing so, Tom, he was accused of opposing the sitting emperor. Can you believe such a thing?
What a horrible, outblown rumor.
Emperor's not going to take that lying down.
Just because he just showed Arnulf a bit more love than Charles.
Maybe the emperor should take a stand, but don't.
This is one of my favourite things he was accused of. He was accused of conspiring with certain iniquitous men and women to overthrow/destroy the papal see, which I feel like is an enormous leap from, you've performed the service in spite of interdict to you're going to destroy the church.
Huh.
I mean, to be fair, they were fond of burning them heretics.
I don't want a lot of burnings right now. But you can see what I mean about John not being a fan of Formosus. the Pope.
Yeah, he was not for Moses.
He was not for Moses. Lastly, there were a lot of things. He was accused of aspiring to be Archbishop of Bulgaria, which he didn't do. He told them no. And finally, my personal favourite, he was accused of despoiling the cloisters of Rome. How he did so is not mentioned.
I'm going to do weird shit here. Okay, all right.
Remind me what a cloister is again.
It's the evolved form of
Yeah,
It's basically, I think it's like the bedrooms, maybe?
oh, he shat on the bed.
He's accusing
Gallery
Moses
or
of bringing
walls of
people
gallery.
back, basically, and doing the naughty with them.
Shelter, not Shelley.
Fancy like corridors and stuff.
Yeah,
That
which
bit.
I just love the idea that he brought women back and he was chasing them through the corridor, which
Around that.
which kind of
What
fits in.
with?
Scooby-Doo villain.
What with?
I don't know, not like chasing them with intent to murder or anything. Like I was going to say, sexy chasing.
I just like the school
The
people.
old sexy chasing.
That was a very different Scooby-Doo we watched.
That idea does come in down the line when we get to his papacy a little bit. The views of his contemporaries. So, John VIII excommunicated Formosus. He wasn't allowed in a religion by Formosus. So Formosus fled to Tours for a little bit. I think that's somewhere in France. Fortunately for Formosus, John agreed to lift the excommunication in 878. Don't know why.
Suspicious
Just
sudden
did.
change of heart.
No. Really didn't like him, but he must have been persuaded by Pope Formosus, or the soon-to-be Pope Formosus followers. He still had quite a bit of sway in the council. And now, he was only unexcommunicated on the condition that he never return to Rome or exercise, and I quote, his priestly functions.
Okay.
Thou shalt not preach with thine arms raised.
Priestly functions.
It's such a good
Oh,
phrase.
priestly functions.
Oh. So, eventually, Formosus got his bishop status restored in 883 by Pope Marius. John had died, whether from shinking? I was going to say shiving, stabbing, strangulation. Didn't say.
Venomous snake, manure explosion.
He got it restored by Marinus the First. I thought it was Marius, but it's spelled Marinus, so it's Marinus.
Marinus.
Marinus. There were two more popes before Pope Formosus was actually made pope. There was Pope Hadrian III and Pope Stephen V.
Don't trust Pope Hadrian. Don't push. Don't.
Hadrian. He's gonna wall you in.
Like
but these
reverse
guys-
Caesar.
Surely reverse Caesar is walling you out or not using a wall.
Shame they didn't have a Killdozer to burst through him.
Ah, you see, that's where they went wrong. Their lack of bulldozing technology.
Killdozers.
But
That's
by
the big problem with the Catholic Church is their lack of Killdozers.
lack of killdozers. But
That's number one on the list.
When Martin Luther wrote the Protestant
Did
reforms,
you
that
say
was
Martin
list...
Ruther?
No, it's Martin Luther.
I thought you said Martin Ruther.
Martin Ruth.
I meant Martin. If
Church
that's
rules
how
always
it
need
came out,
repairing,
I
don't
meant
they?
Martin Luther. But when he wrote his list of things wrong with the Catholic Church, that was number one on his list.
Martin Ruther's
Not
coming
right.
in.
I don't remember, mate.
Have you met my friend, Martin Ruther? Not a fan of the Catholic Church. Really
But
doesn't like the way they
very good at fixing them holes in your roof.
So, Marinus, Hadrian, and Stephen only lasted 8 years combined. And in 891, Pope Formosus was unanimously made Pope. So I'm going to talk very briefly about his papacy, because it's somewhat interesting, but the real good stuff comes after it. So, Formosus
post-Pope.
spent 4.5 years in charge of the Catholic Church. So we're just quick bit of backstory or background. In the 880s, so after Charles the Bald had been crowned in like 875, literally like 8 or so years later, he died, and Charles the Fat had taken control.
I feel like the nicknames for these French kings, they run
sound
out
a lot-
at this point.
They do sound a lot more impressive in French.
This is
They-
the
they
bold, this
do
one's,
find it
this
funny
one's
that-
fat.
Like,
There
It's
was
real
Charles
weird
the
looking-
Simple down the line.
I think for a long while the French just openly mocked their kings with nicknames,
Yeah.
and then, oh yeah, it's time to kill them.
I'm going to say, some things in France never change.
Oh, I will say that.
Oh, well, Charles the Fat wasn't king for very long because he got deposed by Arnulf of Carinthia, the king of
Aha.
East Francia.
Eh.
Wow. However, Arnulf couldn't quite unite Francia, but he had the ambition to be crowned king of Italy. These were then stifled when Guy III of Spoleto had himself crowned instead. He got Stephen V.
World's number one,
I was gonna say at
very first
gunpoint.
Splatoon player,
The
Mr.
DM is
Spoleto.
the name here.
King of Spoleto got Stephen V at knife point to basically crown him king of Italy and essentially emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, despite the fact he didn't have, he had less than half of it.
It's a something. It's fine. It's a pie
So-
chart.
The
The
West
very
is
first
missing,
thing-
but fine.
Yeah, the very first thing that Formosus had to do when he was made pope is he had to confirm the coronation of Guy as Holy Roman Emperor, because apparently it wasn't that long after that Stephen died. And on top of this, he had to confirm his son Lambert as co-emperor.
Hate it.
Yeah, that Lambert's a little piece of shit. He then had to go over to Constantinople and deal with the Patriarchy. That is just a term for the tenets and the code of the Eastern Orthodoxy Church. It has nothing to do with smashing the Patriarchy.
Yet.
Basically, some of the patriarchs there had been ousted by Stephen. They went to Formosus to say, hey, yo, can you reinstate us? Formosus said, no, fuck you. And then
Ah, no!
I don't think those were his exact words. We don't have a transcript.
I think they were.
No, lol,
so
wrecked.
then, after he's done that, for whatever reason, can't imagine why, might have had something to do with being forced to confirm Guy was king of the Holy Roman Empire and all that stuff. Guy and Formosus didn't like each other very much. Might also have something to do with whatever happened while he was at his court, when he ran away from John. But that was going to fester. That dislike was going to fester for a bit. So while it was festering, he had to pop over into France and deal with we'll call it a disagreement, between Odo of Paris and Charles the Simple, who had been ousted from the French throne, the West Francian throne by Odo. So Formosus zealously exhorted Odo for seizing the throne, but Odo basically told him to sod off and ignored his papal decrees. That's the general stuff that happened in the first year. Now, in 892, our old buddy Arnulf decided to invade Italy and depose Guy. It's not entirely confirmed, but it's thought Formosus, hopped over the border and, I don't know, tickled his balls to persuade him to...
Hey, Arnulf, you know what'd be real funny?
If you come in and depose Guy. Yeah, go on. Do it, I dare you. I will crown you if you do it. So Arnulf did it. He invaded Italy twice, smashing Guy's army. At some point, Guy died. I don't know if he got killed by him or not. But by 895, Arnulf had reached the gates of Rome and kicked out Guy's son Lambert. You might be asking why Lambert was in Rome if Formosus didn't like his father Guy and probably by proxy Lambert. Or, as it turns out, the Spoletos were quite popular in Rome, and somehow couldn't possibly be that they had allies within the Vatican. They locked Formosus in a tower and were like, "You're going to stay there until we've dealt with Arnulf."
No.
Good old siege tactics.
So Arnold turns up, kicks him out of Rome, liberates Formosus, and Formosus promptly crowns him king of Italy and emperor of the HRE. Literally the day after. If anyone's curious, I wrote this down, not sure why. Formosus was locked up in the Castel Sant'Angelo, which that's a place.
Oh, that's a good Castel.
It's a good Castel. He then spent basically the rest of his time as Pope battling the Saracens at Italy's base at this point. The Islamic conquest of North Africa and all that area had also spread to Sicily and most of Spain. His time as Pope ended in 896, and his chosen successor, Stephen VI, took over. It's safe to say his reign was quite mixed in terms of success. But oh boy, the good stuff is right now.
Bulgaria.
Interesting enough, Bulgaria comes into this. So in 897, Arnulf died of a stroke. Wouldn't you know it, he keeled over dead. Which is, that happens when you have a stroke. Now, Safeish, Lambert, who was still alive, induced Pope Stephen VI to put Formosus on trial for crimes against the church. Specifically, all the charges made against him by John, the Pope. So, Pope Formosus was unceremoniously hauled to a synod, which is a meeting of all the cardinals, bishops, and ecclesiastical dignitaries, usually to do with tenets and big important events, like accusing a pope of crimes against the church. And he had all the charges shouted at him by Stephen personally. Pope Formosus made no reply, possibly because he'd been dead for 7 months.
I know. Yeah, I figured this.
This whole segment has since become known as the Cadaver Synod. So,
how long did it? Wait.
Pope Formosus had died in 896.
I say, this is the one they had to redig back up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, yep. Now I know where we are. Okay.
Either from old age or poison, and was regarded as either pious or a lecherous old man, depending on who you asked. Relating back to the despoiling of the cloisters, which just sounds like an event from history taken on its own, which I really like.
It sounds like it should be up there with the sack of Rome.
Yeah.
The sack of Rome and the despoiling of the cloisters.
His actual true successor had been a man called Boniface VI. He lasted 15 days.
Lead singer from U2.
Lead singer Bono was made Pope in 896 and lasted for 15 days, after which he went and made U2. He died of a quote.
Should have stayed as Pope.
This is brilliant. He died.
Yeah.
He died of mysterious gout.
Oh, mysterious gout.
Feet are bad.
It's gout with a sinister cape and glasses.
They obviously just murdered him and used gout as the excuse, but I love that it's mysterious gout. Stephen VI. Sorry.
I'm just laughing at the phrase shadow gout in my head for some reason.
Shadow gout. So, Stephen VI was elected afterwards as a loyal ally of Formosus. I use loyal sparingly because Formosus had actually made him a bishop. But it turns out that the moment Formosus died, Stephen revealed his true colours as a Spoleto loyalist and personally bribed everybody to make him pope. Stephen was described by his contemporaries as a violent, unhinged tyrant elected via bribery and threats. Exactly the kind of man you want as Pope. Thus, Stephen was more than happy to uninter Formosus' dead, putrefying corpse, drape it in papal vestments, and sit it on a throne to face the charges of the deceased John VIII. right now, or right now in that time, is essentially a legal battle between two corpses.
I do quite like that someone just like kick open the door. He's just standing there with like a body covered in dirt over his shoulder, slaps it down the chair and yells, "Pope him!" What? Pope him! Just okay.
Get him ready for trial. The best part about this is that you have, from what I can understand, most of the Italian bishops just sat watching this whole thing unfold. So,
like a fucked up version of the Muppets.
I will point out that they did not disinter John VIII. He was kept in his grave. So Formosus' corpse was given a lawyer to defend him.
Oh, good.
Phoenix,
How nice
right?
of them. A terrified young member of the church who was only able to read from a pre-written script, while Stephen literally shouted in an angry tirade directly at the corpse of Formosus. The transcript unfortunately hasn't survived, but we do have a couple of contemporary quotes. The main one I wrote down was, "Being Bishop of Porto, why did you, with great ambition, usurp the apostle? Or in layman's terms, how did you become Pope?" Basically, he's accusing Formosus of bribing everyone to make himself Pope. Exactly what Stephen
What a horrible
did
thing to do.
to become Pope. He then
The Pope does protest too much.
anyone who says they are the Pope is not the Pope. So,
And you knocked over that vase by the opening doorway this morning.
I was gonna say Matt is the fucking
Not
Pope,
me.
not the Scarlet Pimpernel.
What I love is that in response to this accusation, Pope Formosus' corpse allegedly took this moment to slump forward with blood spurling out of its mouth and nearly collapsed off the throne, like it was incredibly shocked at the accusation.
That thing's been dead for 7 months. How's it still bleeding?
So basically, blood will just pool in areas of the body, basically. Which we talked about in our episode on the vampire panic in New America, so you can go check that out, or whatever episode that was. Anyway, apparently, this kept happening throughout the trial. Formosus' corpse kept slumping, and they had to get a few dedicated people on hand to sit him upright each time he slumped. This is made even better when you take into account that apparently during the trial an earthquake hit, shaking the room, and I can only imagine that they had a great deal of trouble keeping him seated during this.
Contain that Pope!
Two people holding him to the chair as the walls shake.
Just by the arms of the chair, and he's just flailing about.
At that point, I could genuinely feel, if I was a holy man, that God is pissed. He is furious.
It was taken as a sign of God that this was wrong.
Yeah, okay.
Did Stephen listen?
No.
Why have I listened to God? I'm a Catholic, damn you.
He brought out all the old charges, so the charge of
The charge of Al.
That's a bit of a
Sacrilegious role.
Sorry, I punched my computer.
the steal and drop it on Stephen.
Charged him with everything John VIII had charged him with, so the spoiling the cloisters, seeking to be Archbishop of, fucking Bulgaria, all that other stuff. On top of this, he was accused of perjury, which I think is a sex thing. Transmigrating seas, so he's now accusing Formosus of actually going to Bulgaria and becoming Archbishop.
Matt, perjury's just lying under oath.
Oh, well.
So yeah, it's a sex thing.
Yeah, that turns me on. I mean,
And an excuse, is that a joke? I'm just going to wait for the laugh. It's not a joke, he thinks. Okay.
He was also just accused of posing as bishop. So, accused of his whole time in the Catholic Church was accused of being fake. Stephen
He's
declared...
posing right now because he's dead.
Isn't someone else posing him? Isn't that the entire point?
Exactly. Stephen declared what was called a damnatio memoriae.
We stayed silent for that so we could capture that for later reference.
A damnatio memor... fuck me.
Put it in
the chat.
I say put it in chat.
My God.
Let
I don't
people
know
who
how
know
to
English
pronounce. I
talk.
was able to pronounce it earlier. Oh, too many N's in there.
John, what is this you put in the Discord?
What? That's a cloister.
Oh, okay. It's a garden, pretty much.
It's more the corridors round it.
Ah, okay.
Something like that. I think I've written it poorly.
Amnesia Marine.
Yeah, something like that. Basically,
Memorine.
all this means is that everything he had done while in power as Pope was annulled and cancelled. Any laws, decrees, papal bulls, crownings, that kind of thing. This is incredibly ironic because he, as I said, had ordained Stephen as bishop. Thus, this annulment would make Stephen ineligible to be Pope. Stephen ignored this.
Huh.
And continued to be Pope. So they then stripped Formosus of his papal vestment. They removed his blessing fingers, which are the middle three fingers on his hand. But just calling them blessing fingers is a bit weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, makes sense.
So middle three fingers on the right hand, and then they re-entombed his corpse. For a little bit, Stephen was still angry, so he dug the corpse back up and chucked it in a river, specifically the River Tiber. Recreating the Roman emperor tossing of old.
So why did I do like a week later? I'm absolutely fucking livid. Get him back.
So,
You know what? I didn't get it all out. There's still some rage there.
Oh, shit, I should have said that.
Just
Get him back.
Just sat at dinner one day and he's just stood there staring at a thing and then he just throws the water or whatever over his shoulder. Is like, bring him back, boys. I'm not done yet.
I don't think they had another synod. I think they just chucked him in a river. Later, so they weighed Formosus down. So we weighed him down in the river. There's no possible way he can re-emerge. Not too long later, a monk who was fishing caught the body.
At that point, I would take it as a sign from God.
Well, this was literally 3 days later. The monk took the body to the church, where it allegedly performed miracles of a nondescript nature.
What that monk did was a very good ventriloquist act. With the full
I couldn't find what the miracle was, but it apparently performed a miracle.
It says the monk took him in as one of the Muppets, thinking it was alive.
Maybe.
Looking like either Statler or Waldorf. I'm not sure which one yet.
Like a proper marionette system was like, I'm back. That's the miracle, and
The jaw just drops off.
I still speak. Another miracle. Oh, he's got us there.
Oh. So, as for Stephen didn't last very long for this. A couple of months later, he was arrested by many of Pope Formosus's remaining supporters, which just means that they ambushed him either in the Vatican or somewhere and locked him up in a tower where he was strangled to death. Coincidentally, they stripped him of his papal garments and made him dress as a monk. I don't know why.
Oh.
They just did.
Oh, okay.
So that is the end.
We're going to demote you, but not entirely.
That is the end of everything to do with the Cadaver Synod and Pope Formosus. Pope Formosus was reinterred after Stephen's death. He was then unordained and reordained as Pope at least 2 or 3 times by the following popes.
Hot topic of discussion, wasn't he?
Well, eventually... It took
sorry we can't stitch your fingers back on, though. We're sorry about that one.
I imagine there's a board in the Pope office, and it's got on one side ordained and the other unordained. There's a bunch of names. They keep swapping his name back and forth.
This was I think it was in total, it was reordained 3 times, 3 in total between the two for the next 3 successors. Fortunately, there was not a repeat of the Cadaver Synod because his actual successor banned corpse trials. Which is like, this was dumb. We're not doing this again.
Good move, I reckon.
And yeah, that's Pope Formosus. The next, what would that be, for 20 years, was just a chaotic mess of popes dying very frequently. Yeah.
It's probably just the Pope disease they brought up. They probably unleashed like a mummy curse. Essentially.
That was the miracle he performed that day.
It was actually his corpse that strangled Stephen to death.
That's a miracle.
Moses would have been proud.
Yes. He parted Stephen's soul from his body.
With his Beyblade.
What, did he have the bloody ligature just attached to the Beyblade, and then he?
I mean, the problem is he can't like pull the thing to set it off because they've cut his fingers off.
No, I just like no, he's the Beyblade. That's it. You just see a spinning corpse just across the timer.
That's what.
That's the miracle.
Crazy.
That's the monk was the one that had to set him off when he fished him up. Monk's like a fish.
He used the fishing rod line as the whatever you'd call it.
Yeah, that hook
Whoever
over the thing and pulled out
the
the...
line for a purpose. Thank you, God.
Oh, but yeah.
Truly, he walks on water. Just spins. Arms flailing with the G-force. Centrifugal forces. Centripetal forces. Sorry.
Well, that wraps it up for this week. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you do want to find us and follow us, you can find us on Twitter at F versus F official. 2 big capital F's in that name. Corby
Like the F's in Francia.
Exactly, like the F's in West and East Francia.
Formosus.
And for Moses. Praise be for Moses.
Or not, depending on which side you fall.
Christian Pope for Moses.
By side, do you mean religion? What?
No,
Pick a
which
side.
You gotta choose.
Join the Bulgarians. They love you.
Mm.
Corby and Tom, do you want to plug?
After you, Tom.
I also have
like
a
a pug.
Twitter.
Oh, a pug.
That'd be
I was
good.
going to say plug that pug. Don't.
Oh.
This pug has a Twitter. At Doug the Pug. I saved it, guys.
That probably is a thing.
That is a thing, actually. I also have a Twitter. It is at randomjot. And I have a YouTube channel as well. You can find some of my solo content. And that is
I thought you
Tom
were
H. Jordan.
Solus.
Well, y'all can
didn't
find
find
me on Twitter at GaiusNix. That's GUIASNYX. You can also find me on YouTube, where I'm currently doing 2 series and uploading stream VODs. I'm currently running. I'm gonna be done with Higurashi by the time this comes out, and that I can guarantee.
Wants it over with.
I don't, because this is only the first chapter. I've got like 8 more.
God, why?
I'm also playing Amori, which is a great game and that people should look at. And I'm also currently running as stream VODs Steins Gate, My Darling's Embrace.
Oh God, it's returned.
In dating
never
sim
getting away.
format. Speaking of streaming, you can find me on Twitch at Gaius_Nix, where you can also watch me lose my life.
That sounds like someone's going to murder you on stream.
It's just my existence, wanting to leave my body as I come to terms with the fact that I'm playing a dating sim. Oh, and I probably might start Bravely Default too, I'm not sure yet, but anyhow.
And you can find links to all that in the description.
Whoa! Well, Pope John the Eighth.
And a ghost, apparently.
Pope John the Eighth. Do you want to take us out?
Okay. No, I was.
It was you the whole time!
That's not an admittance of guilt.
I became whatever it was.
Unreasonable.
Pious.
That's pervert like perjury. No, anyway.
He's a perverted perjurer.
This will be like about 2 minutes around 30 seconds, just because I happened to hear about an event. I clicked on that event on the date of that event, going, I swear I've heard that before. And I noticed that a lot of crap has happened on this particular day in history, as in like the day across the years.
Is this the most exciting day in existence?
Today.
I don't think so, but I think it's a contender. It's January the 8th.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like 6 days
I'll
before
just-
I was born.
I'll go through events and people who were born on it and people who died on it. Okay. Events. First
You just failed to
event.
do maths as an accountant, Tom.
The first
I said
one is,
6 and
is
wasn't
talking
sure.
about kind of around Italy. Francois Grimaldi captured the fortress protecting the Rock of Monaco while dressed as a monk. His descendants to this day still rule Monaco.
That's a
That's a
doozy
thing.
to start with.
Yeah. George Washington delivered the first ever State of the Union address in New York City.
Nice.
The Battle of New Orleans happened where Andrew Jackson defeated British forces with like 60 losses to about 2,000. So that was the first thing that really kicked the shit out of the British. Anyway, one of the first. Anyway,
Damn colonials.
1828, the Democratic Party of the United States is formed. 1867, African Americans given the right to vote in the District of Columbia. 1859, Charles de Gaulle is proclaimed president of the French Republic. And I think 2 years later they agreed to his Algerian terms or whatever. Anyway,
Matt, you genuinely sounded like that meme of M.
like
Bison
M.
from
Bison.
the Street Fighter cartoon.
I think you meant 1959, not 1859.
I did meet 1959, yeah. Well, I don't know. He's an old guy. Anyway, and in 1973, the Watergate trial begins. These are the massive events from that time. There was also some shit where Ethelred started a battle and died.
Ethelred being ready.
Yeah, no, that was the one battle he won, actually.
Is that because he started it and he was ready?
Yes. I'm finally ready. He lost the next one like a week later. Anyway, also who were born on this date, John Curtin, the Australian president, Graham Chapman of Monty Python fame, Stephen Hawking, apparently Kim Jong-un. We don't know the exact date, but most people believe it to be this date. Some interesting people in music, which probably changed the face of music. The first one I don't particularly like for reasons, which is R. Kelly. But there's also the three quite important people: Shirley Bassey, David Bowie, and Elvis Presley.
Wow.
Yeah,
David Bowie.
That's a hell of a lineup.
Who died on this date? Galileo Galilei of Galileo fame. You know, that one.
I was aware who it was.
The man with the
You
telescope.
might not have been. I mean, the last name might confuse you. Galilei. That's so different from Galileo.
The man made famous by Queen.
Emperor Norton I of the United States.
Oh, Norton.
Yeah, interesting fellow. Robert Baden-Powell, the founder of the Scouts. And Francois Mitterrand, the 21st president of France. So there's a lot of French going on in this day. So yeah, it just seemed like a weird date where all this happened. I don't know why. Different years, obviously.
Conspiracy.
Collectively. Some horrible time
24-hour period.
amalgamation where it's crushed together.
Charles de Gaulle's became president as David Bowie is born in the background with Elvis as a man in a monk costume sneaks past into Monaco.
Moses spins across the water and opens up a time rift. And it just brings it all in.
As he triggered his Beyblade, which was the Pope.
Far
Pope
more stuff happened on that.
Formosus.
Far more stuff happened on that date, but these are the more interesting stuff.
Oh, damn.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for that.
There you go.
Remember the 8th of January.